Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
The city of Cold Lake may see less activity on their air base as the 419 Tactical Fighter Squadron has been temporarily deactivated. We get more in this report.
March 8th was a difficult day for Cold Lake as their training squadron was temporarily disbanded. 419 was created in December 1941 and was used in World War II. The small fleet of just 7 jets has been in service for the Royal Canadian Air Force ever since, but has seen deactivation 3 previous times. The current Air Force in Canada is smaller than before, and Canadian NORAD Region Commander Ian Huddleston hopes this deactivation can help increase their numbers.
We're short, frankly, of fighter pilots, and we're trying to recover the strength of our force, and we hope to do that despite the fact that we're using an training vehicle. We're hoping to increase our numbers over the next period of time.
The squadron was placed on hiatus as the RCAF prepares to transition its frontline fighters from the CF-18 to the F-35. And the ending of contracts for 419's main training aircraft, the CT-155 Hawk, added to the decision. Huddleston is unsure of what new aircraft will be used for training.
Now that we've chosen and committed to the CF-35, we can be a bit more specific about which training aircraft will best suit the transition to the CF-35. But up until this point, we've been hampered in those efforts just because we didn't know exactly what we were going to get. And as the traffic in Cold Lake skies decreases, the RCAF is very grateful for the support they've received from the community. It's fundamental to the security, to the air security of Canada and to Canadians. And then not only that, any contribution that we would make to NATO in terms of the fight in Europe or elsewhere would come and originate from the team that's here. While the program is in hiatus, students will train in the U.S. and other NATO-affiliated countries. And the program is hoped to be reactivated in the early 2030s with a new 5th-generation trainer aircraft to help take this program to new heights. For Primetime Local News, I'm Ben Lowan.
The Border City Collectors Club held an event last weekend showcasing a variety of collectibles and vintage items. Our Leo Cruzat has more.
Sock in a Box is just one of the collections along with different amazing and rare items that were featured at the 2024 show and sale event in Lloydminster Exhibition Ground over the weekend. Items such as antiques, comic books, and various toys were showcased at the event. Don Whiting with the Collectors Club told us the event is meant to help charities and museums in the community, as well as making a person feel nostalgic.
We kind of do it as a fundraiser, not just for our own committee, but so we can make donations to like museums, area museums, Lloydminster Museum, archives. It's kind of the reason we do it. That's part of the show, is the memories that some of the items, trigger in a person. Yeah. Earlier today I seen a little 66 Chevy half-ton little model thing, but yeah, had one of those.
Started as a toy tractor club, the 20-year-old event is a place where collectors can show their various items such as old equipment, different toys, books, and vintage radios. Doug McGurr, who traveled from Nipawin, Saskatchewan, shared some of his collections, including some old hockey cards.
Kind of a collector of all things. Started out as hockey cards, into coins, Army medals and medallions. These cards shown here are the 1987-88 Rapici hockey cards. They were mint in the pages, so when you're looking at mint cards, they're basically perfect condition.
From a miniature town, dolls, and even retro video game titles were also shown.
Proceeds will go to Bar Colony Museum Foundation and other charities in Lloydminster. This event also featured door prizes ranging from memorabilia, commemorative coins, toys, and much more. If you missed the event, you can follow the Facebook page of Border City Collectors Club for future detail. Leo Cruzat, Primetime Local News.
It's time now for this week's edition of Retrospect with Callum Hawker.
This week in Retrospect, we take it back to March of 1995, where we look at the success of the Lloyd region and marketplace just a few years into its operation.
5 years ago, the Lloydminster Region and Marketplace was developed. It was an organization set up for area businessmen interested in selling goods and services to Husky Oil during construction of the BPU. The idea was so successful that the Alberta government looked at developing it into a region 3 years later.
As a result, we have about close to 5,000 businesses in northeastern Alberta that are now listed with us with the goods and services that they sell.
The project is computer-based, making information about the region very accessible to interested parties.
Typical scenario would be that let's hypothetically assume that a major contractor was coming in to do a project. Let's pick Grand Centre, for example, and he needed sub-trades and many subcontractors, that type of thing. We could quickly give him a list of all the sub-trades and all the subcontractors in the Grand Centre area and in Lloydminster, for that matter, Vermilion, all of our member communities, so that it might encourage him to use those subcontractors rather than to bring his own from wherever he was coming from.
Regional businesses will also be able to be connected with one another on an international scale.
Alberta Economic Development, along with Economic Development Edmonton, have designed a new computer database that is going to allow all communities access to internet. And we intend to download our information in internet, so this information really will be available to the world. So anybody looking at Lloydminster or Provost or Vermilion or Vegreville, Northeastern Alberta Marketplace will have that information right on their computer, right in front of them.
The marketplace also gives smaller businesses an opportunity to play on an equal field with the ones that are larger than themselves, this through reverse trade shows.
So the businessman doesn't have to guess at what type of merchandise he needs to have. The procurer, the large institution or business, is going to tell him exactly what he wants. So it's an excellent opportunity for business to interface with large institutions and businesses.
And on this day in 1999, much like today, people in the community are getting ready to file their annual taxes.
Every year, millions of Canadians put off filing their income tax returns until the very last minute.
There is a lot of people in that area who I'm sure are in a quandary as to what to do.
There are no major changes this year, and there is some good news. Interest payments on student loans are now tax deductible, whether you're still a student or not. And some low-income taxpayers may qualify for an extra deduction. If you're not aware of things like this, you'll be out of luck. That's why many people are now having their taxes done for them.
We have a substantial increase every year in the number of tax returns that we file, and I think that is the case. It is. If people are making substantial amounts of money, it generally doesn't cost them to have it done professionally. It likely saves them to have it done professionally.
Still, half of all Canadian taxpayers do file their own returns. Be warned, though, it isn't always easy.
It is very difficult to calculate it. You know, you need your income and so much percent of it, and then you take away this from that, and you go on and on and on, and you cannot arrive at the real, the real amount.
The Revenue Canada statistics show that 76% of the returns that are filed manually are done wrong.
Don't be discouraged if you do plan on crunching your own numbers. It's not impossible. Keep these things in mind, and you should be able to complete the task with relatively few headaches.
The biggest thing is to make sure you have all your information that you need. And there's a guide comes out with the tax form, and I would read it first, especially to go through and indicate the things that affect you.
Of all the books in the market, this is your best book for preparing income tax. There's no need to go and buy another book, for $15, $25, $30. And this explains line by line what you have to do. Every line on this form, you come back here and it tells you what to do, if it's applicable to you or not.
And that's all for this week in Retrospect.
Retrospect is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Find New Holland products at Webb's Machinery, your dealer in Vermilion, Vegreville, Lamont, Wainwright, St. Paul, and Consort.
Well, Abby St. John joins me now with the weather. And Abby, Pretty nice out there. Are we going to see some more of that for the next few days?
I think we are. We're looking at a little cloudy for the next couple days, but as we get into later on the week, we are expected to have some sunshine. This weekend was very nice. And, you know, of course, the province of Alberta, and Saskatchewan, of course, we lost an hour of sleep due to daylight savings, which I don't really like, but it is what it is. That happened over on Saturday, but we did have a very nice weekend out, very sunny, very clear, which was nice. A little bit of an overcast later on in the day on Saturday, but for the most part, it was a nice weekend. And today was also quite nice out as well with the sun, and it wasn't too cold either. It's currently +2, only feels like -1, so it doesn't actually feel that cold with that wind chill, so that's always very nice. Wind speeds at 13 kilometers per hour, and like I said, very sunny day out. A little bit of clouds, but it definitely didn't deter the sun. That's for sure. Current temperatures in Alberta, 5 degrees out in Provost, St. Paul, and Bonnyville, 8 in Wainwright and out in Edmonton, 4 in Vermilion and Marwayne, 6 in Vegreville and Cold Lake, and 7 up in Lac-La-Biche. And in Saskatchewan, 2 up in Isle of Cross, 5 in Pierceland and St. Walburg and in Macklin, 6 in Green Lake and in Meadow Lake, 3 in Maidstone, and 4 in North Battleford. So it's nice that we're all above 0. Overnight tonight in North Battleford will drop down to just -10, so it should be a relatively nice evening out tonight. The clouds will start to increase in the evening, and then it'll follow with some lower clouds in the sky, 11 kilometer per hour winds. And then tomorrow in North Battleford, a daytime high of 0, so it's going to feel a little bit chilly. There will be lower clouds, and the winds will come up to about 22 kilometers per hour, so it's going to be quite windy out tomorrow, so it may feel a little bit chillier than that 0 degree. Overnight tonight in Cold Lake will drop down to -6, partially cloudy skies, 13 kilometer per hour wind, so it shouldn't be too cold of an evening out tonight. And then tomorrow with a daytime high of 3 degrees, expect a pretty overcast day out tomorrow, 17 kilometer per hour wind. So it's not going to be as nice of a day, but it's still not going to be too cold with that 3-degree high. Overnight tonight in Lloydminster will drop down to -9. The clouds will start to increase as well, and will start to follow with some low clouds, 17 kilometer per hour winds. And then in tomorrow, just to break down the day, 6 a.m. it will be cloudy all day, -7 and then -3 by noontime, 26 kilometer per hour wind, so it's going to feel windy during the day. And then -2 by the time the evening rolls around, and then -4 going into tomorrow. And then over the next 3 days here in the border city, a high of -1 and a low of -6 for tomorrow. And those clouds will continue into Wednesday, where we also have a daytime high of -1 and a low of -7. And then on Thursday, we should have some sun. Those clouds should give away a little bit to the sun, but we'll have a daytime high of +4 and a low of -1. So that's something to look forward to. This week won't be too bad and will mostly be above 0. That is a first look at your evening weather forecast. I'll have more overnight temperatures later on in the show.
Experts are warning that it could be a difficult wildfire season in Alberta this year between climate change and an El Niño winter. The union representing firefighters has said the province has been slow to prepare for the coming wildfire season. The province has increased its contingency fund and added an extra $55 million for fire preparedness, prevention, and response. Alberta has already declared the wildfire season to have started in late February, weeks earlier than usual. Last year, more than 38,000 Albertans were forced out of their homes by wildfires. Now here are your agriculture prices for today. The Lakeland College Apex Automation Rustlers women's hockey team is in the championship round of the ACAC playoffs, taking on the Nate Ooks in a 5-game series. With a wrap on the first 2 games, here's our Thomas Wildman.
For the first time in program history, the Lakeland Rustlers women's hockey team is in the finals. They're taking on the tough Nate Ooks, who the Rustlers battled throughout the season, winning 3 of 5 games. The Rustlers will need to replicate that success in order to come home with the ACAC banner. Game 1 and the Russ Robertson certainly didn't get off to the best start for the Rustlers, as they would take an early penalty and Bree Martin would get the Ooks on the board with a power play goal. Midway through the first, Kibble White would score to put the Ooks up 2, and that would hold to finish up the first. Early in the second, Bree Martin would get her second goal and extend the lead to 3. But throughout the second, the Rustlers had some more chances and momentum, and they would finally get one past Caitlin Slater to open up the third. Darby Robertson would score on the power play with assists coming from Kira Buziak and Alyssa Shaw, and the Rustlers would continue with the pressure and chances, but the Ooks held them off and cruised to a 3-1 opening night victory.
Well, I thought we did a really good job on staying on them. We were getting on pucks fast. We were trying to break out, but we adjusted because it wasn't working very good. But at the end of the game, we were working harder. We were getting to pucks faster. We were taking away their lanes, and we just got better as the game went on.
The Rustlers will be making a few adjustments, but aren't going to reinvent the wheel, as they plan to continue to play the same hard-nosed Rustler hockey that got them to this point.
I don't think we want to change the way we play, but we had an offensive zone penalty on the power play. You can't have those, and our player knows that. But it's a fine line. We're trying to push and be aggressive and get after pucks, and we're a team that's going to take a few penalties just because we're trying to be aggressive.
The Rustlers had another tight contest the next day in Edmonton, but ultimately they lost Game 2 3-2. That sets up a do-or-die Game 3 back in the Border City this Friday. Thomas Wildman, Primetime, local news.
Time now to have a look at all of the pet pictures that you've been sharing with us for our Pets of the Day.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to have them featured on Pet of the Day.
I am speaking with author Lorna Nicholson, and I'm quite intrigued by the title of your book, The Girl Who Loved Poutine. Now, can you tell me a little bit about your inspiration for the book?
Well, my inspiration comes from number one, when I was a child and driving all across Canada with my parents. So I remember it so vividly, being in the car, and I remembered going through the prairies, like we were living in Ontario, and we went to Vancouver. So going through the prairies, I remember that moment of seeing the Rocky Mountains when you head into Banff. And then I also remember Vancouver. So that was one thing. And then the other one was going to the East Coast with my own children and driving, being on a road trip and driving, and going through to Nova Scotia and being on the red sand in Prince Edward Island. So I just wanted to find a way of how I could put this all together. And I had just finished writing the Joey Moss book, and I was talking to my editor from Sleeping Bear Press, Barb McNally, and she said something about poutine. And then the two of us just started talking, and she was like, oh my goodness, we could, and then we just were like so excited. And I said, I could do a book about poutine, different types of poutine in Canada, but yet I could incorporate parts of Canada, because Sleeping Bear Press, even though they're an American company, always does Canadian books. And they love to have a Canadian book on their lineup. So we just started discussing it, and then we both got really excited. I said, that would be a great book. So it is a book about Canada. It's a book about family, and it's a book about poutine. Different types of poutine in Canada.
I guess, did you agree with your editor on who has the best poutine across the country?
Well, there was a little bit of debate because actually the publisher is Canadian and she's from the East Coast. So she was always like, "Oh, the lobster poutine is the best." And I do have that picture. We do have a little bit of a picture in there with the poutine of with the lobster on it and sort of what and Newfoundland. So we've got some photos of like Newfoundland and the different type of poutine in Newfoundland. Now that comes from my neighbor up the street because she's from Newfoundland and she said, "Oh, our poutine is so different. We have savory on it and breadcrumbs." And I was like, "Gosh, that sounds a lot like turkey stuffing." She goes, "That's exactly what it tastes like." So I was really intrigued with that. But I talked about the red sand in and the lobster bibs in the East Coast. So there's lots of different little glimmers of Canada in the story, and both Zoe, who is the main character, and her father have their birthday on July the 1st. So I incorporated a little bit of Canada in there as well. And I have to say that the illustrator, Rachel Kwikwi, did a fantastic job with the illustrations, just a fantastic job. I was very excited when I got the book and there was these really wonderful illustrations and Zoe was so beautifully portrayed in the book.
It's really exciting to see somebody celebrating something that's such a staple, I think, in Canada. I don't know if I'd ever seen it before, say in 1994, but yeah, I certainly do love poutine, and I think the gravy makes it. That's my opinion.
I
But
think it does too. I think the gravy makes it, but I think the cheese curds make it. And I do remember the very first time I saw poutine, it was in Quebec. So we did a little bit because of course it is known. We did a little bit of back matter in here too. So fun facts about poutine. And then we also did a little recipe on how you can make it. But the very first time I saw it was in an arena at in Trois Rivières. And I remember them lined up at the canteen and I'm looking at the concession stand and I'm looking over thinking, what is that? And it was poutine. And they have the cheese curds that squeak, squeak, squeak. So I remember also those cheese curds. So I put that in and it's quite fun because we did a little bit of squeak, squeak, squeak in here for the kids when they're reading, right? So they've got that. But of course, I have her eating her healthy meal as well, because you cannot live on a diet of just poutine.
much as I've
So
tried.
she gets it for her birthday. And I think that that's important too, that she's got the healthy meal but she's excited because she gets her birthday meal. And you know what it's like for kids on their birthday, they often get that special meal. Where do you want to go? Like, and kids will pick the places that they like to go. And this is what she likes to do. And it just so happens on this one, a lot of her family members are coming. And so they have a poutine contest and she gets to pick the winner.
Lorna, I'm so excited to see what is coming up next. I know that authors always have ideas floating around in there, but how do you top poutine?
I don't know, with gravy and cheese curds. That's my favorite. Do you know in BC they do one with chowder? They don't put the gravy on it. They just put the chowder and then they put some cheese curds on it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That might take a
interesting.
little bit to get used to, I think.
Yes, I think so too, but it is one of my favorites too. I've got lots, but topping poutine. I've got lots of other books in the works, of course. I'm always, as you say, as writers, we're always looking for that new idea. I've recently become a grandmother, so of course there's like grandma books are coming out of my brain every time I see him. I think, oh, that'd be a good book. Or every time I see him, I read books to him. So then I'm able to think, oh my goodness, that's a really good book, or that was a good idea, or why didn't I think of that one? So there's a bunch of grandma books floating around inside of me. But I also have a novel coming out in the fall. It's a hockey novel and it's set in Alberta. It's very Albertan, set on a farm, and it's called Stopping the Shots. It's about a goalie. So I was very, very lucky to have a grade 7 class just outside of Cold Lake help me out with the farming part of the book, which was really fun. They read a draft copy and they gave me all kinds of tips on things that I'd done or not done. They were very honest, which I really appreciated. And I have a book on Sidney Crosby coming out in the fall as well. And I also have a female hockey book novel coming out next year, which I'm really excited about because I do believe that the PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League, is very, very exciting. And I'm thrilled to be able to put a female protagonist in a book and have a little mystery novel that's with hockey, with these girls playing hockey on a team. So that's really fun too.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to those, Lorna. I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm very happy to be joined here today by Jacqueline Weed with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Lloydminster. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, now Big Brothers Big Sisters, they rely on a lot of donations and of course volunteering, of course. But with going off of donations, you kind of have make it monthly to set a monthly donation for your programs through Canada Help. So can you tell me a little bit about what that is and what that means for people?
Right. So the Make It Monthly is a campaign that Canada Help started. It's all nonprofits can use it actually, but it's designed to allow people or encourage people to set up monthly giving campaigns. So you can go in and select how much you want to give every month on a certain date to that organization. So especially in March, this is important because just for the month of March, Canada Helps is going to match any donation that's $20 or more. They'll give an extra $20. So that's why we say small gift equals big impact, because giving, if you make a donation for $20 every month, for the month of March, they'll give us another 20, so we made 40. So every amount counts with Big Brothers Big Sisters. You know, the people often donate and they're like, I only have $25. That helps. When you have 10 people that give $25, then that's 250. So it grows in little steps. So we appreciate any donations that we receive, but it's super easy to set up on Canada Helps. And if they actually want more information, we do have it on our Facebook page about the Make It Monthly March campaign.
That's awesome. And it's fantastic that there's an organization like Canada Helps that helps nonprofits, raise that money and then to match it in the next month in March. That's awesome. What will these donations be used towards?
All money that we raise gets put towards our mentoring programs. So the creation of those life-changing mentoring relationships and then the support for those relationships on their journey.
So with to set up a monthly, let's say $20, that will come out automatically every month, or how does that work? How do the monthly payments work?
Yeah, I believe you go in through Canada Helps and it's all set up. So I believe you pick, when you go in to make a donation, you pick one time or monthly, and then they'll just take it out every month. And I believe they also do the receipting. So any donation over $20, you get a tax receipt. So they look after that as well.
Awesome. Now, is there anything else that you would like to add in regards to the donations or Make It Monthly or even just the March campaign?
Not for March, but just to give people a heads up, in April, we will be starting Poutine Week again. So they can keep an eye on our social media for what's coming up. I know everybody does love Poutine Week, so that'll be April 11th to the 17th. So stay tuned in the coming weeks for what restaurants are taking part and what poutines we'll be having.
Well, that's very exciting news.
It always is.
Yes, that's something definitely to look forward to. But thank you so much again for joining me, and I wish you the best of luck for just, not just Make It Monthly every month, but for the month of March, where you guys will get the matched donation. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Christopher Nolan's biopic Oppenheimer dominated the Oscars, winning 7 awards, including Best Picture.
The reason this movie was the movie that it was Chris Nolan. He is singular, he is brilliant, and I'm so grateful to you.
The film about Robert Oppenheimer and the creation of the atomic bomb took home the cast took home another 6 awards across different categories. Lead actor Cillian Murphy and supporting actor Robert Downey Jr. each took home prizes. Nolan won the award for Best Director.
I think that's really exciting for Nolan himself because it was his first Oscar for director, and he got a second Oscar later on for the Best Picture. So he really won last night at the Oscars, and I think that it was his time. I think it was his time to collect his flowers because obviously he's been nominated, I think, 8 times for the Oscars. So I think it's about time.
All right. Well, that is all that we have for you this evening. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a good night.